Hello, once more, and welcome back to Turnerback on YouTube, doing the Week 2 2025 NFL predictions as we get on into it. After having a perfect week in Week 1, going 7-0, my season is off to a good start. First time in the 5 years I've done NFL predictions, where I've started with a perfect week to start the year. How about that, feet? Let's get into it. Week number 2, starting out on Thursday Night Football with the Washington Commanders, Shady Daniels, and Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love, up in Green Bay to start us out on Thursday Night Football. Should be an interesting one here. Packers, they were one of the teams that beat the Lions. Team I predicted to be the number 2 seed in the playoffs in 2025. And then also the Commanders, they won over the weekend as well. They beat the Giants 21-6, only 2-score game. I think the Packers had the largest margin of victory over their division opponent against the Lions. And looking at it right now, these two teams are teams that both made the playoffs last year. Commander, but they both lost in the playoffs last year to the Eagles, a team that won the Super Bowl last year in Super Bowl 59. So what you can say about these two teams is they're mirror images on one another. They want to be one of those teams that make the playoffs and win every year, but they can't beat the team that won the Super Bowl like last year did. Can they do it this year? I don't know. But going to this game on a Thursday night in Lambeau Field, it's going to be tough for the Commanders and Jaden Nails. I think this might be the one game where he gets roughed up a bit in. I see the Packers coming away with a big home win on Thursday night against the Commanders to start out Week 2. Moving on in Week 2. Sunday afternoon, the Bears 0-1 going against the Lions 0-1. Both these two teams, Lions lost to the Packers in Green Bay. Tough matchup. Or the Bears lost last night on Monday Night Football to the Vikings. And you look at the Vikings, who beat the Bears with J.J. McCarthy, but you look at the Bears and Caleb Williams. 12 penalties to be the issue. And what do you do about those 12 penalties? How do you fix it going into next week? Into Week 2 on Sunday against the Lions, who are a team that also lost to the Packers, which I did watch most of that Packers-Lions game. It looked interesting, but my question is on the Bears. How do they fix those penalties? And how did your first-year head coach do better? Your offensive coordinator who came in from Detroit, who went to Chicago last year, how did they do this against his former team? I think it's going to be a real homecoming for him, for Ben Johnson, the head coach of the Bears. But I think the Lions, though, Jared Goff and the Lions, I think the Lions find a way to bounce back in Week 2. I see it being a few games before the Bears and head coach Ben Johnson gets his first win as a coach of the Bears and an NFL head coach. So give me the Lions of Jared Goff in this one on Sunday afternoon in week number 2. Moving on. Next matchup, we have the Cleveland Browns against the Baltimore Ravens. Those of you who know, if you saw the Ravens game against the Bills on Sunday night, or an end of it, Bengals. The Bills came back from behind to beat the Ravens in that one on Sunday night. Again, I did predict the Bills to win. It was close, 41-40. Bills won by a point on a last-second field goal by Matt Prater, who was not the regular kicker, and I think that hurt the Ravens. Question is, Lamar Jackson, can he live up to beating a team in Cleveland, coming home this time around? First home game. Personally, I think Lamar Jackson's Ravens could do it. The most question I have is about the Browns. How are the Browns going to look this year? How are they going to be a good team in Cleveland? That's the biggest question I have about the Browns on their side of things. But it's about the Ravens. Can they rebound, come back, and get a win in this one? I do think, yes, they do get a win in this one. I think they make a game of it, and I think they get back into it and come back in it. Unfortunately, I do see the Browns being one of those teams that loses it. I do see Lamar Jackson going off and having a good day. So give me the Ravens as the one home team in this one to get the win against Cleveland Browns. Moving on to our next matchup. Denver Broncos. Indianapolis Colts. Colts, Daniel Jones. You take quarterback Daniel Jones, you take him out of the Giants, take him from New York, put him in Indianapolis. He does things for you. Colts 1-0 while the Texans dropped to 0-1. I think the most interesting thing to talk about in this matchup is the AFC West all being unbeaten, while the Chiefs sit at the bottom. We'll talk about the Chiefs in a minute, though. But look at the Broncos and Colts. This matchup, Colts, their owner, the owner's daughter, who's now the owner of the team, had a play sheet, and also had a headset on every weekend, listening on the sidelines, which I find interesting. Why would your owner do that? Only to probably decide who she should buy, or maybe I have no clue why they would do that. But it's an interesting subject. For Daniel Jones, he was one of those quarterbacks. He scored on all 7 of his drives over the weekend on Sunday for the Colts. But I look at this game and think to myself, Bo Nix, the Broncos coming in. Bo Nix was one of those quarterbacks last year that did what he could to win. Made the playoffs as a first-year quarterback as a rookie. Got to the playoffs. At this point in time, I think the Broncos might be a little bit better than the Colts. Overall, don't know if Daniel Jones 1 week's not going to prove that he's better in Indianapolis than New York. We'll have to wait to see the majority of the season. But I think Bo Nix and the Broncos come away with a big road win on a Sunday. Get a win here in this one after week 2 to start 2-0. Moving on, Sunday afternoon, we have the Eagles, Jalen Hurts. They're going against Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, a rematch of Super Bowl 59. And yes, you can say the rematch of Super Bowl 59 is in well shape or well effect. The biggest question, I believe, is this. Kansas City is a Chiefs fan. I'll say this. I watched the end of the game last Friday night. It looked interesting on paper, but I did have some questions. Can the Chiefs rely on Travis Kelce to be number 1 receiver, even though he's a tight end? Can the running game go? Can the left side of the offensive line with Simmons, the rookie out of Ohio State, can that work for you? I think that's the biggest question of debate in Kansas City is who's going to be step up and play? How are you going to protect your quarterback? Patrick Mahomes, I did see him most of the game I saw the last 5 minutes. It was on the ground multiple times, unfortunately. For the Eagles and Jalen Hurts, they lost their one starter, Jalen Carter, in the first before the first play. He spit on Dak Prescott. But looking at the Eagles, they won by 4 points in one-score game. Chiefs, they lost a one-score game. Now, for 2 teams that played in the Super Bowl against each other last year, and the Eagles blew the Chiefs away, I do think see this game as a one-score game. And, of course, I see the Eagles taking the rematch in this one on the road in Kansas City on Sunday to send the Chiefs out 0-2. Unfortunately, that's what I believe. That's what I think. As a Kansas City Chiefs fan, it's hard to say that, but I look at it as this, and I think, the Eagles might be the better team. Kansas City still has a lot to learn with their offensive line, I believe, overall. Moving on to Sunday Night Football, the Falcons taking on the Vikings. In this one, J.J. McCarthy, in his second game as a starter. After being hurt all last night, he did lead the Vikings to a big win. They were down a half to the Bears. They made a large lead, come back late, and won it. But the question for me about this one is, can the Vikings do it again? They're one of the teams last year. They had the second best record in the NFC, but we're a wildcard team. I think you just throw the wildcard teams out the window. Just give the best seeds 1 through 7. Just give them to the teams with the best record, I think. Vikings would have been a number 2 seed and playing a home game in the playoffs last year. But unfortunately, it wasn't to be because the wild card scenario. Well, this game overall, the Vikings, they're one of those teams, they can play well. Watching the highlights, but can they win by a field goal every game? I don't think so. I think that's going to be the one issue for the Vikings is can J.J. McCarthy, the quarterback, develop? Can he lead a team? I only know it's been one game, but if he can do it, he can do it. We'll find out, though, throughout the season. Overall, this matchup, I'm going to take the Vikings, though, as a winning team. J.J. McCarthy, after last night, and Aaron Jones. I think Aaron Jones is going to have quite a few rushes. Justin Jefferson give him a touchdown, give T.J. Hawkinson, the tight end, a touchdown as well in this one on Sunday night. Moving on, Monday night. The late game on Monday night. The Los Angeles Chargers, Justin Herbert, 1-0, playing against the Las Vegas Raiders, 1-0 as well. You have 2 teams. Quarterback, Justin Herbert for the Chargers. Raiders, they have a new head coach, Pete Carroll. Question is, who's going to win this game? Is it going to be one of those games where you have a good win, or is it going to be one of those games where the team that wins comes from behind it one-on-one by a lot? Overall, I'm not so sure what I believe on this one. To me, the Chargers, after winning against the Chiefs, they're one of those teams, I think, every year, the Chargers, they can compete with the Chiefs. Last year was the Broncos. I think the AFC West, we're seeing a standard where it might be one of the toughest divisions to win this year in 2025. I think that might be the case. At the end of the day, in this one, I think Justin Herman, the Chargers, I think they come away with a big win and get to 2-0 and take a road win well, likely, with most wins. So I have the Chargers in this one to finish this off on Monday night in the late game. And I'll tell you right now. A recap that we're taking. Starting on Thursday night, we're taking the Packers Jordan Love over Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. In Detroit, we're taking Jared Goff and the Lions over Ben Johnson, first year coach of the Bears, and Caleb Williams. In Baltimore, we're taking Lamar Jackson and the Ravens over the Browns. In Indianapolis, we're taking the Denver Broncos, Bo Nix over Daniel Jones and the Colts. In Kansas City, we're taking the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. On Sunday night, we're taking J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings at home against the Falcons. And on Monday night, in the late game, we're taking Justin Herbert and the Chargers to go 2-0 against the Raiders with a win on Monday Night Football in Las Vegas. There you go. Comment below who your favorite teams playing this week if you think they're going to win. Also, with that being said, if you did like today's video, please remember, watch, like, subscribe. Don't forget to tell our friends to do the same if they've not done so already. Also, don't forget to hit that notification button below so you know when there's a new video. With that being said, have a good day, stay safe, and peace out. I'll see you right back here on Tuesday next week, early Tuesday, with the NFL prediction recap video, since the Chargers and Raiders play late Monday. NFL prediction recap for week 2 will be on Tuesday next week, early. So I'll see you all then. Have a good day, stay safe, and peace out. See you next Tuesday, everyone. Bye for now. Have a good day. See ya.